Howdy, friend. Sam Houston here, hoping you're living in high cotton. And if you're lucky enough to be in Texas, I know you're most of the way there. Now enjoy your daily dose of Texas history and Texas pride.
Howdy, friend. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast and your Texas History Roundup for February 16th. In 1836, a writer arrived from Laredo area and reported that some of General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna's Mexican forces were crossing the Rio Grande. In 1843, Old Jake Snively was given authority to raise a volunteer force to intercept Mexican traders on the North Texas frontier in retaliation for several recent Mexican indignities. Although his expedition defeated a band of Mexican soldiers, they found no traders. That's traders with a D. The campaign was generally a fiasco, with the volunteers rejecting him as their leader but later reinstating him to lead them home. The expedition disbanded on August 6th. Yeah, that sounded like a spit show for sure. In 1846, Corpus Christi was incorporated, then later reincorporated on February 16, 1852. The area was first explored when Spaniard Joaquin de Orobo y Bastera came down the Nueces River and reached the bay in February 1747. It was not until September 1839 that a trading post was established on the west shore of the bay. In 1846, the town became the seat of newly formed Nueces County. In 1852, the Texas legislature passed a bill authorizing the governor to negotiate with the federal government to create an Indian territory in the northern part of the state. In 1854, two short-lived reservations, the Brazos Reservation and a reserve for the Comanche, were established. In 1861, just 2 weeks after Texas seceded, Union forces in Texas under Major General David E. Twiggs surrendered an estimated $1.3 million in property, arms, munitions, and stores, to Benjamin McCulloch, and it was agreed that all forts in Texas would be turned over to state troops, which makes total sense. These were major losses to the Union at a critical time. Twiggs was dismissed from the U.S. Army for his actions. He served briefly in the Confederate Army before passing away about 18 months later. Well, his actions, I don't know that he had a choice. Texas seceded and became shortly its own republic again and immediately joined the Confederate States of America. It was no longer the United States, so they had no right to be here if Texas did not want them. In 1904, John C. Hill died in Monterrey, Mexico. He had been captured during the 1842-1843 Meyer expedition when he was only 14. General Pedro Ampudia interviewed Hill and, being impressed with his bravery, recommended him to Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who offered to release John's father and brother if John became a Mexican citizen, which he did. Hill attended La Mineral, which is a college of mines, and became an expert mining engineer and an influential Mexican leader. He later became an honorary member of the Texas State Historical Association. Huh, that's interesting. In 1908, artist Henry A. McArdle, who had been born in Ireland in 1836, died in San Antonio. It is interesting that 3 of Texas's most famous historical paintings were done by a person born in the year of Texas independence. So one being the Dawn at the Alamo, the next, the Battle of San Jacinto, which hangs in the Senate chamber, or they both hang in the Senate chamber, I guess, and the Settle of Austin's Colony, which hangs in the House of Representatives. In 1949, the remains of Felix Longoria, a Mexican-American private, were buried in Arlington National Cemetery with Senator Lyndon B. Johnson of Texas and a representative of President Harry S. Truman attending. Longoria had been killed in the Philippines, and the director of the local funeral home in Three Rivers had refused to use the use of his chapel for the funeral. Hector Garcia, organizer of the GI Forum in Corpus Christi, was instrumental in Longoria being so honored. And finally, in 2021, this Tuesday morning was the midpoint of an approximately 6-day cold spell that seriously affected the entire state of Texas and states beyond. At least 15 people froze to death in Texas amid widespread power outages, natural gas interruptions, and broken water pipes, which had caused water interruptions and shortages. While there was much finger-pointing, A major reason for the fiasco was utility equipment not having been adequately winterized after a somewhat less severe event in 2011. I'm sure a lot of you folks listening remember that freeze. I will tell you, funny enough, my family and I were not anywhere around Texas during that super freeze in 2021. We were actually in Mexico, believe it or not. We were in Merida, and we were there for, I guess, the whole month of, last week of January, the whole month of February. And while we were there, the highs were 75 degrees, 80 degrees. But we would talk to our folks back here, on Zoom and whatnot, and that people were freezing. It was one of the weirdest, surreal things ever. Like, we would get off calls, and then me and my son and daughter and wife, we would jump in the pool in the house, outside in the pool of the house we were renting. So quite the difference, quite a weird type of thing or sort of thing that went on. But anyway, just a little tidbit for you. Thank you so much for listening. That was your Texas History Roundup for February 16th. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow on the next one. All right, you take care.
Well, there you have it. If you like our podcast, check us out at feedbandit.com. There you'll find awesome Texas First outdoors gear and apparel. Your purchase helps support the Bandits and keeps this podcast on the air, fighting for you and for Texas. Remember, preserve the tradition, protect the legacy. Until next time.